I'm 81 years old, and I have lived with a sentence for 15 years. Later. I said it so many times that it built a life around it. And now the rooms where those laters should have been feel thin and empty. I tell you this because I am running out of late afternoons. Time has fewer corners left to hide in. I am not looking for sympathy. I want to explain how a small habit, saying you'll do something tomorrow, becomes a life you can't quite repair when tomorrow stops arriving. When I was younger, later was practical. In my 20s and 30s, work kept growing, and there were always bills and a campaign or a project that needed one more hour. I had a wife then who kept lists, and children who wanted simple things, an extra bedtime story, a hand to tie a shoe. I promised them I would give those things later because there was a client to call, a roof to fix, a responsibility that felt immediate. Those promises were not lies, they were postponements dressed as priorities. In my 40s and 50s, the pattern tightened. I said later to rehearsed conversations that required openness. I said it to dinners that my daughter planned and to the repair of a friendship when an apology would have mattered. People adapted. My wife learned to carry more emotional labor. My children learned to expect my physical presence and my mental absence. It was all reasonable at the time. Work reminded me who I was, and being needed at the office felt like being someone important. The cost came quietly. It wasn't a single disaster. It was missed recitals, a graduation where I arrived breathless and distracted, a long voicemail left unheard because I thought I would call back later. There were conversations delayed until they hardened into something else, a silence, a moved-on life. I once promised my son I would come to a fishing trip and then canceled for a meeting. He didn't ask me again. I told myself he understood. Later he moved away, then farther, and the opportunities piled up like uncashed checks. The turning point was a hospital room and a calendar that closed without warning. My wife fell ill in a way that made the phrase later useless. She was kind in the beginning. She spoke of small things, of a photograph she wanted me to find. I told her I would look later, and I meant it. Later arrived as grief. She died before I had matched my words to actions enough to make the ledger balance. The small mercies I had promised, so many afternoons, so many apologies, remained promises on paper. What cannot be fixed are the ordinary hours I deferred. You cannot sit with a child's shy smile after you told them you'd come later. You cannot unring the bell of a missed apology. Time is not like a savings account where you can deposit attention later and expect interest. The people who learned to live with my later had to adapt. Some adapted away from me. I carry their absences like a quiet ache. I am not here to admonish. I remember what it felt like to be pulled in 100 directions and to think the next day would hold room. I am telling you what lived truth looks like from this side. The regret that comes not from failure, but from delay. If you hear your own habit in my words, maybe consider the small things you keep putting off. A call, a visit, saying a hard sentence. These do not require grand gestures, only presence. If this matters to you, tell someone you love them today, or keep a promise when it comes due. If you want to tell me about a later you regret or one you kept, I will listen. My voice is softer now, and my days are fewer, but I can still say the things I once postponed. Saying them costs nothing and costs everything, depending on when you choose to say them.